I've studied over 10,000 millionaires, and 97% of you will fail this test. Your neighbor just bought a brand new BMW. Your coworker is wearing a $5,000 watch. Your friend just leased another luxury car. Which one is actually rich? None of them. The real millionaire? He's the guy you ignored in the grocery store checkout line wearing a 10-year-old t-shirt, driving a beat-up Honda, and using coupons. While everyone else is playing dress-up with their credit cards, he's sitting on millions you'll never see coming. I'm about to destroy everything you think you know about wealth, and by the end of this video, you'll never look at rich people the same way again. This story comes from a real encounter with a bank trust officer, someone whose job is literally managing money for rich people. After hosting a dinner with 10 self-made millionaires, he was completely shocked. These wealthy individuals looked nothing like what he expected. Meanwhile, this banker was spending more on his suits than most actual millionaires ever would. His watch alone cost $5,000. That's 10 times more than what typical millionaires spend on timepieces. There's a brilliant saying from Texas that captures this perfectly. Big hat, no cattle. It means someone who looks the part but doesn't have the substance to back it up. A 35-year-old business owner from Texas explained it best. This man had built a hugely successful company rebuilding diesel engines, but you'd never know it by looking at him. He drove a decade-old car, lived in a modest neighborhood surrounded by postal workers and firefighters, and dressed like he worked in his own garage. When his British business partners first visited his office, they completely overlooked him. They searched the room, assuming he must be one of the truck drivers, not the millionaire owner they'd come to meet. Finally, one of them realized their mistake and said, "Oh, we forgot we were in Texas." The Texan's response was perfect. "I don't own big hats, but I have a lot of cattle." So who exactly are these hidden millionaires living right next door to us? Let's break down what America's typical millionaire actually looks like, and I guarantee it's going to surprise you. He's probably 57 years old, married with 3 kids. In 7 out of 10 cases, he earns most of his family's income. About 20% are retired, but here's where it gets really interesting. 2/3 of those still working are self-employed. Think about that for a second. Self-employed people make up less than 20% of America's entire workforce, yet they represent 2/3 of all millionaires. 3 out of 4 consider themselves entrepreneurs. But here's what's really going to blow your mind. Most of them aren't in glamorous industries. Forget the exciting careers you see in movies. Real millionaires often work in what you might call completely boring businesses. They're welding contractors, auctioneers, rice farmers, mobile home park owners, pest control operators, coin dealers, and paving contractors. These aren't sexy industries that make great TV shows, but they're incredibly profitable ones. Sure, many are professionals like doctors and accountants, but plenty more built their wealth in trades and services that most people completely overlook or consider beneath them. Now let's talk numbers, because this is where it gets really fascinating. The typical millionaire household brings in about $131,000 per year. That's good money, don't get me wrong, but it's not extravagant. Their average net worth sits around $3.7 million, though half have accumulated $1.6 million or more. But here's the real secret that changes everything. They live on less than 7% of their total wealth each year. While everyone else is spending everything they earn, and then some, millionaires are saving and investing the difference. That's the game changer right there. Let's talk about where they live, because this might surprise you too. 97% of millionaires own their homes, valued at around $320,000 on average. Nothing too fancy, right? But here's the smart part. About half have lived in the same house for over 20 years. They bought when prices were lower and enjoyed the appreciation instead of constantly upgrading to bigger and better houses. Here's something that'll really get you thinking. 80% of millionaires earn their wealth themselves. They didn't inherit it from rich parents. They built what they call a go-to-hell fund, meaning they've saved enough money to live comfortably for 10 or more years without working. This isn't just about having money in the bank. It's about freedom and complete peace of mind. Remember our trust officer friend with his expensive suits and luxury car? Real millionaires shop completely differently. They buy inexpensive clothing and typically drive American-made vehicles. Most don't even drive the current year's model, and very few lease their cars. When everyone else is trying to look successful, millionaires are focused on actually being successful. This isn't about being cheap or stingy. It's about being incredibly smart with money. They understand there's a huge difference between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy. Behind many of these millionaire men are wives who are absolute masters at budgeting and planning. Only 18% disagreed with the idea that charity begins at home. These couples work as true financial teams, and interestingly, the wives are often even more conservative with spending than their husbands. Now here's where millionaires definitely don't skimp: education. While only 17% of millionaires attended private schools themselves, 55% send their own children to private schools. They understand that education is one of the best investments they can possibly make for their kids' futures. As a group, they're extremely well educated. 4 out of 5 graduated college, and many hold advanced degrees. 18% have master's degrees, 8% are lawyers, 6% are doctors, and 6% hold PhDs. Don't picture millionaires lounging by swimming pools all day either. 2/3 work 45 to 55 hours per week. They're incredibly disciplined about both earning money and saving it. When it comes to investing, they put nearly 20% of their income into investments every single year. That's double or triple what most people manage to save. 79% have brokerage accounts. But here's what's interesting. They make their own investment decisions rather than paying expensive advisors to do it for them. They typically hold about 20% of their wealth in stocks and mutual funds, but they're long-term investors who rarely sell. Another 21% usually sits in their own businesses, which makes sense since so many are entrepreneurs. Here's something that shows how realistic these millionaire parents are. They recognize that their daughters face financial disadvantages that their sons simply don't. Even in the same careers, men typically earn more money. That's why many millionaire parents are more willing to financially help their daughters than their sons. They understand the playing field isn't level. With 3.5 million millionaire households in America, and that number is growing much faster than the general population, smart young people should seriously consider careers serving affluent clients. Accounting and law top the list of recommended professions, especially tax advisors and estate planners. The chapter ends with a perfect example of the millionaire mindset. When one millionaire was asked why he spent hours completing surveys and interviews for research, he replied with complete honesty, "I'm a tightwad. They paid me $100 to $250 for my time." When the researchers offered him the option to donate his payment to his favorite charity instead, his response was absolutely classic: "I am my favorite charity." The biggest revelation here isn't really about money at all. It's about mindset. Real millionaires don't waste time and energy trying to look rich. They focus every bit of their attention on actually becoming rich. They understand that building true wealth requires discipline, patience, and the willingness to live below their means while everyone around them is spending way beyond theirs. Your actual millionaire neighbor is probably the person driving that 10-year-old Toyota, not the one showing off in the brand new BMW. They're playing a completely different game, one focused on financial independence rather than financial appearances. The question isn't whether you can spot a millionaire by their clothes or their car. The real question is this: are you building cattle, or are you just buying a bigger hat? Because at the end of the day, only one of those strategies will actually make you wealthy.